Alright, we're doing this. This right here is one of those games. If you grew up in the 90s and you rented games from a video store, this one probably stared back at you from the shelf like a warning label. Today, we're playing Spider-Man and Venom, Maximum Carnage. A game that said, you like superheroes? Cool, now suffer. No warm-up, no tutorial, no press jump to learn how jumping works. The game just drops you into the streets and goes, alright, fight for your life. Enemies already rushing in, health bar on screen, soundtrack going absolutely feral for no reason. And yes, you can choose between Spider-Man or Venom. That choice alone caused arguments in the living room worldwide. Now, let's talk about the feel of this game. This is a straight up side-scrolling beat 'em up, but it plays faster and meaner than most. You're constantly surrounded. Enemies don't wait their turn. They come in waves, like they owe rent. Fun fact, this game was based on a very dark comic storyline from the early 1990s. And developers absolutely leaned into that tone. Everything feels aggressive. Even the color palette feels angry. Also, listen to this music. This soundtrack has no business going this hard. Here's something people forget. This game is hard on purpose. Limited continues, enemies that juggle you, bosses that feel unfair. And back then, you couldn't just look up a guide. You had vibes, determination, and maybe a sibling yelling advice that did not help. Fun fact, a lot of people never actually beat this game as kids. It became one of those legend games where everyone played it, but very few finished it. If you beat it back then, respect. Actual respect. Look at these enemies too. Wild designs, bright colors, sharp teeth everywhere. This was peak 90s comic energy. Bigger, louder, more extreme. And yes, enemies types repeat with color swaps. But back then, that wasn't lazy, that was efficient. We saw a blue version and said, oh no, he's stronger. This is also one of those games that tests patience. You will get hit from off screen. You will lose health fast. You will question your life choices. And yet, people still loved it. Why? Because it feels powerful. Every hit lands. Every punch matters. It's frustrating, but it's memorable. That's why people still talk about this game decades later. Here's what really makes this game stand out though. At the time this came out, superhero games were hit or miss. You either get something incredible or something borderline unplayable. This one landed firmly in the people still talk about it category. Why? Because it didn't feel like a cash grab. It felt like the developers actually cared about the source material and the tone. They weren't trying to make it safe. They weren't trying to make it intense. Most beat 'em ups from this era were about clearing screens and moving on. This one felt like survival. Enemies rushed you. They don't politely line up. They knock you down and punish mistakes. That design choice made every level feel urgent. You weren't just playing, you were reacting. That's why even today, it still feels fast and stressful in a good way. Let's talk about character choice 2. Because this was huge. Spider-Man felt faster, more agile. Venom felt heavier, stronger, and meaner. That choice mattered. It wasn't just cosmetic. Your playstyle changed depending on who you picked. That was a big deal back then. A lot of games didn't do that well, but this one actually did. And let's be honest, a lot of us picked Venom just because he looked cooler. No judgment, zero judgment. Here's the wild part. Even now, with modern graphics and smoother controls, people still come back to this game. Not because it's perfect, not because it's easy, but because it has personality. The music, the art style, the chaos, it captured a very specific moment in gaming and in comic history, and doesn't water it down. That's why you still see it pop up in retro lists, collections, and conversation. It earned its spot. So yeah, Spider-Man and Venom Maximum Carnage, a classic that tested patience and created memories. If this brought back memories, hit like, comment who you played as, and follow Incredible_Conundrum for more retro games. This is Incredible Conundrum, and game on.